What's up, guys? Today we're going to take a look at the brand new Hisense PT1 Ultra Short Throw Projector. As you can see, this runs off of Google TV as its OS, and it is running version 12 of the Android TV OS. So as we can see here, just as Hisense's previous other Google TV projectors, this does have a snappy Google TV interface. And if you are going to be using this rather than just your standard Apple TV, maybe Roku, this does have your apps built into it as well. And if you wanted to add some more apps, there is a apps tabs up in the upper left corner. You can go down and search for apps in the Google Play Store here in this section. And since it is running Google TV, you can have all of your major streaming apps, such as YouTube, Netflix, Apple TV, and so on. And of course, if the app supports it, you can stream in 4K HDR, such as the YouTube app or the Apple TV app. As we can see in the upper corner, supports Dolby Vision and Dolby ATMOS. And of course, you do have the official Netflix app, and this as well will support Dolby Vision and Dolby ATMOS, as we can see in the upper left corner there. But let's back on out of this and quickly let's look at some of the relevant projector settings, such as the picture and sound modes. So we do get a few different picture modes here. I have it on theater right now, but you can see that we have vivid, standard, sports, energy savings, theater, and filmmaker mode. You can apply these settings to all sources or just the current source. Under general, we've got the content type auto detection. You can turn that on or off. And then AI Scene will analyze the current scene and automatically optimize the picture quality. The automatic light sensor will automatically adjust the screen brightness based on the ambient light in your room. Under laser luminance, you can adjust the laser output of the projector. Under scenario enhancement, we've got off, dark level enhancement, and then high dynamic contrast. So this will automatically adjust the laser output and adjust the brightness depending on the scene being shown on screen. We have sliders for contrast, black level, and dark detail. You can adjust the gamma. Active contrast will automatically optimize the contrast of the dark and light areas of the picture by analyzing the luminance level. And then brightness enhancer will enhance the brightness of the screen. Prolonged opening can affect the product's lifespan. I think this really greatly affects the color of the projector's image, so I always tend to keep this off. And then last option here is the HDR enhancer, which will turn SDR material and make it more HDR-like, so you'll get a much more vivid picture, although it does look a bit unnatural. Under color, we've got sliders for color and hue. Color temperature, we've got warm 1, warm 2, standard, and then cool. For color temperature adaptation, according to the operating status of the laser device, the color temperature will be automatically adjusted and maintained consistently. Color space, we've got auto, 709, P3, and then 2020. I think it might be easier just to keep that on automatic. And then dynamic color enhancer will enhance the vividness of the image quality and just make it pop a bit more and add a bit more saturation. Under clarity, we've got a sharpness slider, smooth gradient on or off, super resolution if you want to add some extra sharpness to the image by using AI technology, noise reduction, MPEG noise reduction, motion enhancement. We've got custom, which will let you manually adjust the judder and blur reduction. We've got film, clear, standard, and then smooth. And then if you are a professional calibrator or have the proper calibration tools, you can calibrate this projector yourself under the calibration settings. Then the last option for picture is reset. Next option is the sound settings. We have for TV sound effect, there is a Dolby ATMOS virtualizer built in, which will give you a pseudo surround effect from the projector. And then we do have a few different sound modes. Under advanced settings, we have the acoustic tuning, which will automatically adjust the projector's acoustic output or sound output according to your room. So to get this started, hold up the microphone at your main listening position and click OK. Takes a couple seconds and then you're done.
Plenty of people think I don't belong here, and happy to add you to the list if you're implying what I think.
As a rule, I don't imply stuff.
Straight talk.
Straight as an arrow. No sugar.
Everyone thinks Ruben's lost it, that he's clutching at straws. They're saying maybe he lost a bet. Ran over your dog. They're saying Sonny Hayes isn't a has-been. It never was.
Yeah, when I Like straight talk, I'm in. Me. From others, I most.
Here we've got an equalizer, so you get a few different bands here. And then we have the balance control. We have auto volume, your volume level, lip sync delay, and then you can reset all of the sound settings here. Now by pressing on the menu button on the remote control, this will bring up your quick settings bar or your quick tools. So right now we have quick access to the picture mode, sound mode, laser settings, audio output, and so on and so forth. And you can also customize this bar yourself depending on what kind of settings you want down there. But here under laser settings, you can access a few other options that are not available in the main menu settings. So here we've got the projection mode, we've got front ceiling, rear, and then rear ceiling setup for the projector. So you can mount this projector on your ceiling if you so please. Here we've got auto keystone correction, so this will automatically try to align the projector with your screen, or you can do this manually, such I have done here. So here you've got 4 different points where you can adjust the projector's image and get it squared up with your screen. And by holding down the OK button for a few seconds, you can bring up the 8 points correction. So here, if you want to pick a specific spot, say the upper right-hand corner, you can digitally manipulate and move the image inwards. So if you cannot get the projector squared up perfectly, then you can really fine-tune the image here. However, to get the best image possible, you should line up the projector perfectly with your screen and not use any of these digital keystone corrections. And then the focus adjustment, by tapping up and down, you can focus the projector. Now I should note that the upper corners are slightly softer than the lower corners. However, if I adjust the focus and get the top corners as perfect as possible, the center of the screen will be slightly softer. If I get the center of the screen razor sharp perfect, then the upper corners will be a bit soft. So in order to combat that, I did have to meet it halfway, so that way I get a little bit of softness in the corners and also a little bit of softness in the center of the image. So you will kind of have to pick your poison on which you want to get better. Softer corners or a razor sharp image, or vice versa. Or do like me and try to get it somewhere in the middle. However, the lower corners are razor sharp. So focus uniformity across this projector, at least on my sample, is not perfect. Under eye protection, you can turn this on, so if you pass in front of the projector, it'll shut the laser off so you don't accidentally blind yourself. And this does support 3D. Now, if you are a 3D fan, this projector does indeed support 3D like the other Hisense projectors before it, such as the PX3 Pro and also the L9. The only thing about this one is that this projector is a little bit dimmer than the previous model, which is the flagship L9. I believe it's the same as the PX3 Pro brightness-wise. So while the L9 is a much brighter projector, I think it's about twice as bright at 5,000 lumens, this one is still satisfactory. I still think the L9 is the best projector or ultra short throw projector for this year, since it is so bright, so you do get the most pop and 3D depth. However, this is still really good. So if you have a screen that's, I would say, around 130 inches and below, the image is really going to have really good 3D depth. I didn't notice any kind of crosstalk or any kind of weird artifacts or anything like that. The 3D depth is really good. Nice separation between all the layers and nothing really out of the ordinary, especially for a lot of these DLP 3D projectors for this year. Now this of course does support left and right, side by side, top and bottom, frame packing as well. So if you have any 3D movies in those formats, this will do it. Or if you want to go from 3D to 2D, you can do that as well. Unfortunately, you cannot turn on the ultra sharp mode, so you can't project or you can't upscale any 3D content into 4K. You will of course need 3D DLP Link glasses, which you could pick up on Amazon. But overall, the 3D did look great. I would say keep this at about 130 inches and below for the best 3D image possible. Now keep in mind that this does support 4K resolution, and it'll give you all 8 million pixels on screen to give you 4K. However, this is a 1080p native projector, so by using upscaling and then turning ultra sharp mode on, this will give you 4K resolution. But if you turn this on, you can see that this will kick this back down into 1080p mode, and you should be able to see all of the pixels on the screen. So you can see how the text is not razor sharp anymore. However, if we turn it back on, it does get razor sharp. So you are going to want to keep this on at all times if you want to get the sharpest, cleanest image possible out of this projector. And that is it for the laser settings. Now, just like the previous two Hisense USTs, this has dynamic tone mapping, and it works pretty good. Here I've got it turned off, and it makes it look like the horses are just standing out in a white background. Turning tone mapping on, everything from 600 to 10,000 nits looks relatively the same. The trees are clearly in the background, and the grass and the snow in the foreground are no longer blown out. The projector does also have 3 Dolby Vision presets, bright, dark, and then custom, which you can customize yourself. I'd say that this looks nearly the same as the HDR10 version, although comparing Dolby Vision to HDR10 Plus, HDR10 Plus does look slightly hotter than either Dolby Vision or the regular HDR10 versions. The next feature I wanted to check out is the scenario enhancement. With it off, the black levels is slightly more elevated at times than the other two. The contrast enhancement does look noticeably darker, with the specular highlights a touch brighter than the other two. And I found the dark level enhancement to fall somewhere in between. And the other option I wanted to check out was the dynamic contrast setting. As you move up the setting, you can see that the shadow detail does get crushed. So in the highest setting, the kid's hair looks almost like he's wearing a black helmet instead of showing the strands of hair on his head. So for me, I went back and forth with either keeping it off or using it on low. So this might be one of those settings you might find yourself tinkering with from time to time. At the time of this video, the Hisense PT1 is selling for $24.99. It's about half the price of the flagship L9Q, with half the brightness, coming in at 2500 lumens, using triple laser technology, which is also capable of 110% BT 2020 color. It does have a similar look as the L9Q, with the faux brushed finish and the bronze accents. The 46-watt built-in speakers did a fine job of filling in my room, and as long as you have the Dolby ATMOS setting turned on, it'll throw out a big soundstage up front with some decent low end. Turning off the ATMOS setting will make everything sound like it's coming directly from the projector itself, so I would recommend just keeping it on. It's also a very quiet projector and barely noticeable while watching content. Coming from the more expensive L9Q, I did miss the extra brightness on my 150-inch screen, but if you don't have the spare change to drop on the L9, for half the price, this still throws a great image that's colorful and has really good black levels. I'd say the black levels are just as good as the L9Q. Now, if you are sensitive to the rainbow effect, I did notice it from time to time, more so while watching 3D rather than 4K, although I also didn't notice any speckle, at least not on the screen that I'm using, which is a 150-inch weaved Screen Innovations Maestro 2. If you're using an ALR screen, then it's possible you'll see it. Also, if you are a gamer, it has 2 HDMI 2.1 inputs with ALLM support and 1 HDMI 2.0 input. There are 2 USB-Ns and an optical output as well. Since this is a laser projector, it'll last up to 25,000 hours with IMAX Enhanced support and all flavors of HDR. With that said, I found this to be another solid performing ultra short throw projector from Hisense that isn't going to break the bank. Well, those are my thoughts on the Hisense PT1. If you want to grab one or want more information on the projector, I will leave links in the video's description. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.